Look at this. Today we've got some tricky craft. We're going to make a French knitting bobbin and then do some French knitting. So you'll need a cylinder like a toilet roll. You'll need something like paddle pop sticks. I've got short ones, but you can use long ones. If you want to decorate your bobbin, you'll need some crayons or textures. You'll also need a pick, and I'm using a long bamboo skewer for the pick, and a bit of sticky tape to put the sticks on. And of course, you'll need some yarn to do your knitting with. Shall we make a start? Let's begin with the bobbin and our paper cylinder. We'll need 4 sticks at the top, and you can do about a bit over 1 centimetre overlap there. So the stick's got to be sticking up over the end. And then we'll use some sticky tape to put that in place. Now, exactly opposite that one, we place another one. And use some sticky tape to put it in place. Then we go on the opposite side with some more sticks so that they're facing each other. Four sticks, 2 pairs facing each other. Now, I want those sticks to be really, really firm and stay in place. So I'm going to put some more sticky tape at the very bottom to hold them, because we don't want those moving when we start knitting. So they're on nice and firmly. Now it's time to begin knitting. Of course, if you want to decorate it, you can do that anytime you want. In fact, let's put on some colour now. I'm just being very rough, but you could draw pictures. Like this one's got little vines growing out of the grass on it. Or you could just put lots of colour on it, whatever you'd like to do. So now we've got our bobbin made and coloured, all colourful. We need our yarn to do our French knitting. So take a long bit of the yarn to be the tail, and you're going to thread it through your bobbin. Pull it through so it's got a nice long tail on it. Then we're going to wrap the yarn around our sticks. So starting with the first yarn, holding the tail firmly from the inside to the outside, around, back inside, across, inside, outside, around, across, inside, outside, around, and cross, inside, outside, around, and across. So that's our first layer of stitches. Now we need, this first time, we need to add a second layer. So inside, outside, around, across, inside, outside, around, and cross, inside, outside, around, and across, and around. Now we need to hold this firmly. You can see we've got 2 layers of stitches. Using our pick, we're going to take the bottom stitch, lift it up over the top stitch and over the top of the stick. Then we're going to give a little tug on our tail to firm that up, but keep the tail firm. Then we move to our next stitch. The bottom stitch comes up and over the top stitch. Oh, be careful you don't lose the top stitch like I nearly did. There we go, and a tug on the tail. Bottom stitch over the top stitch. Oh, it's being a bit tricky for me today. And holding the yarn firmly, bottom stitch over the top stitch and pull firmly. Can you see how they're starting to come together? Now we do the next layer. Inside, outside, around, across. Inside, outside, around, across. Around, across, around, until you've done that all 4 sticks. Then again, starting from our first stick, bottom stitch over the top stitch, bottom stitch over the top stitch. Make sure you give a little tug every now and then to keep things nice and firm on the inside. Bottom stitch over the top stitch. Make sure that top stitch stays on. Bottom stitch over the top stitch. And then you do another layer, and we keep going until that tail starts to pull through with some knitting. And you keep going until that is as long as you'd like it, and I'll show you what we can do with it in a moment. So let's use this one to finish, to cast off. So I don't want to put any more layers on, I want to finish our knitting. So our first stitch comes up, and instead of going into the middle, it's going to go across to its neighbour stick. And then the bottom stitch comes up as normal and into the middle. Now this stitch comes up and across to its neighbour, and this new bottom stitch comes up as normal, and this one goes across to its neighbouring stick, and the bottom one goes over the top of that until we've got one last stitch just hanging on there. Then snip your other tail, and you're going to pass it through the hole of that last stitch and pull firmly. Then there is our French knitting. It's a long roll of French knitting. Now we're going to roll it up into a coil, and you can use glue or you can sew it together into a coil like this. Mine's a little bit short, but if we were to keep going in our spiral, it would get bigger and bigger, and you could make a placemat for your table. You could sit things on that. You could use felt and glue things onto it, make a funny face, all sorts of things you can do with your French knitting. I hope you have fun with that very tricky craft today, and once the library opens, you can bring your French knitting bobbin in and show me. I'd love to see it. Bye bye.